सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवतिर्नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चादेशतारणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। So in the set of verses that we were talking about, Sukadeva Goswami was describing to Parikshit Maharaj the uh, the path that is followed by a yogi who is meditating on Paramatma or the super soul. And this set of verses is talking about a yogi who directly attains perfection. So as we had discussed that the yogis, they can choose one of the two paths. They can choose to directly attain liberation, or then there are the Krama Muktas who gradually go through the different planetary systems, and then finally they reach Brahmalok, from where they attain liberation. So this he is describing the yogi who has perfected his practice of Astanga Yoga, and these set of verses 20, 21, 22, they are describing the process by which the yogi actually leaves his body. So in 20 he was talking about the process. So he says that the meditative devotee slowly pushes up the life hair from the navel to the heart, from there to the chest, and from there to the root of the palate. He then searches out proper places with intelligence. So today we'll do verse 21. Tasmad bhruvorantaram munayeta nirudh saptayatano anapeksha Stitva murtadam akuntadristi nirvidya murdan vishrajet param gataha. Thereafter, the bhakti yogi should push the life hair up between the eyebrows. So the previous verse had described the life hairs being coming to the palate. Now, further upward progression, then pushes the life hair up between the eyebrows, and then blocking the 7 outlets of the life hair, he should maintain his aim for going back home, back to Godhead. If he is completely free from all desires for material enjoyments, he should then reach the cerebral hole and give up his material connections, having gone to the Supreme. So here again, we notice that Srila Prabhupada, he calls the yogi as Bhakti Yogi. So even though the process that is being followed is that of Astang, but because the person is aspiring to go back to Krishna, then the mood of the person is that of devotion. So we had a brief discussion about this in the last discussion, that one may follow the path of karma or gyan or astang, but if their mood is to use this to serve Krishna, then they are devotees. They're just following that particular path according to their propensities. So which is why, even though these people are clearly following the path of Astang, Srila Prabhupada is referring to them as Bhakti Yogis. So he mentions that they're blocking the 7 outlets of the life hair. So the 7 outlets are the two eyes, the two nostrils, the two ears, and the one mouth. So, generally speaking, life the life hairs go from the mouth. So when people die, you see that the mouth is open. For people who are very demoniac, or people who are very much in the mode of in the lower modes of ignorance, then they lose their life air from their from the lower hose, like through passing of stool or urine. So they are generally, it's considered to be people in the lower modes. Most of the people, the life, they lose their life through the life air goes out to the mouth. But the yogi, he elevates from the mouth above all the other places, the nostrils, the ears, and the eyes, and then finally he takes it to the crown of the head. So where we said is the highest chakra, and from there the life air is released. So this is the mood of a mukta who has developed complete detachment. So unlike the krama muktas that we will now speak about in the coming verses, such yogis, they have no desire to experience anything in the material world. They have no sense of any lingering tastes for enjoying in the material world. They only want to go back to the spiritual world. So they give up the gross body, they give up the subtle body, and they regain their spiritual form. They regain their service to Krishna, which is why as we mentioned, Prabhupada is addressing them as bhakti yogis. Next verse 22. Yadi paryasayan nripa parmasthayam vayashanam utayad viharam ashtapidatyam gunasanivaye sahivagacchen manasendriyascha. However, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments, like transference to the topmost planet, Brahmalok, or the achievement of the Eightfold Perfections, travel to outer space with the Vahiyas, or a situation in one of the millions of planets, then he has to take away with him the materially molded mind and senses. So the verses 15 to 21, they describe the path of a yogi that is desiring mukti. Now, these coming set of 10 verses, 22 to 31, they describe the path of a krama mukta. So the krama mukta is the one who gradually will attain or will gradually move towards liberation. And why are they krama muktas? So that's explained in this verse, that if one desires to attain Brahmaloka, so Parmasthayam, or Viharam. So Viharam means the playgrounds of celestial beings. Like Prabhupada says, the Vahiyashas. So the Vahiyashas are mentioned here specifically because the Vahiyashas have they perfect the Ashtasiddhis, which is something that the yogis also perfect. So such people, what happens to them is guna sanivyaye. So guna sanivyaye is another name for the material world, and the reason it is called guna sanivyaye is because it is characterized by guna. So the modes of material nature exist over here. Now, how can one enjoy the material world? In order to enjoy, so just like if you are in the water, if you have to sustain there, You have to have the breathing apparatus and the suit. So you need the modes of material nature to enjoy. You need the mind and the senses. So such a yogi will not give up his association with the modes. Such a yogi will not give up his mind and senses, which means that he will not give up his body. So the acharyas say that there are two kind of yogis that that are being referred to in these verses. One is the the yoga prashtas, and the other is the krama muktas. So externally speaking, they're kind of the same. The yoga prashtas are the ones who give up their yogic practices to enjoy the fruits of the yoga, and these are the fruits of the yoga. The enjoying the the Brahmalok, or the Ashtasiddhis, or traveling with the with the Vayashas. So these are all the fruits of yoga. So one who becomes too much attached to the secondary fruits of the yoga in the sixth chapter described as the yoga prashta, and then the other is the krama muktas. So the krama muktas are a little different kind of people. So it's kind of like you're going from point A to point B, you've gone on the highway, you're driving, and then you see a board over here that this is a scenic detour. And then they say, okay, I'll take the scenic detour. So the scenic detour is generally a narrow, windy path. You have natural and scenic beauty. You may have a picnic spot over there. So you drive slowly, and it takes a long time. But the detour is still moving in the right direction. The scenic detours, they will not take you in the opposite direction. They will not inhibit your movement. All that they do is delay it. So the Krama Muktas, they're still focused on their goal, that they desire liberation. But for whatever reasons, they take the detour. So generally speaking, it is understood that these set of verses, the 10 verses, they refer to the Krama Muktas and not to the Yoga Prashtas. And the reason, of course, is that at the end of these verses, Sukadeva Goswami also attributes an exalted destination for them. So for a Yoga Prashta, it is not a scenic detour, but it is a U-turn. That they're going down the path, and then they make a U-turn and they head back into the materialistic aspects. Okay, verse 23. Yogeshwaranam gatimahurantara pahistrilokyah pavanantaratmanam nakramabhistam gatim apnavanti vidya tapayoga samadhivajam. The transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. As such, by the strength of the devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material world. The fruitive workers or the gross materialists can never move in such an unrestricted manner. So we see that this verse is clarifying between the two possible people who could be traveling this path. So we had mentioned that there could be either the yoga brashtas or the krama muktas. So Sukadeva Goswami is saying that the people that he's talking about, they're concerned with the spiritual body. So they're definitely invested in making spiritual progress. How? By bhakti, by tapa, and by gyan and siddhi. So by any of the paths that can help them to make spiritual progress, they are making they're making that endeavor. And they are different from the yoga brashtas. They're different from those who are the karamkandis, the gross materialist, because they can never move in such an unrestricted fashion. So one may question that why does an aspiring spiritualist still maintain material attachments? So the verse is trying to give us some insight into this, that the karmis, which is the fruitive workers or the gross materialist, they enjoy matter from within, whereas the yogis that are being spoken about, they enjoy matter from without. So the difference is that the karmis, they enter into the material world and they are completely surrounded by the modes, and then they try to enjoy matter. But these class of yogis, they are not trapped by the material world. They are outside, but still they have some desire to enjoy it. So it's like somebody entering into a room, getting completely engulfed by it, and then trying to enjoy within, or someone who is outside but still trying to enjoy, but there are no restrictions. So such people, Sukadeva Goswami is calling as Yoga Ishvaranam. So Yoga Ishvaranam is that even while they are enjoying matter, they continue to be fully invested in the activities that are transcendental. And Sukadeva Goswami gives an example: devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge. And the fact that they are not trapped by it, Sukadeva Goswami demonstrates by making the statement that their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. So for the materialists, the movement is restricted. They're restricted by time and space. We can't travel faster than a certain speed. We cannot go to, like in our case, the movement is very, very restricted. For the demigods, the movement is a little less restricted. They can travel into several planets. For Brahma, the movement is even less restricted, but still it is restricted. But for these people, the movement is completely unrestricted. Prabhupada gives the example in the purport of Narad Muni. And he said Narad Muni is an example of such a person that he can go to Vaikuntha anytime that he wants. In fact, he can go all the way to Vrindavan, Golok Vrindavan. Durvasha Muni is another example, that when he was being chased by the Sudarshan Chakra, he went all the way to Lord Vishnu to get shelter from him, which means that he traveled all the way to the planet of Lord Vishnu. So such mystics, even though they appear to be in the material world, are not a part of the material world. Okay, next verse. Vaishvanaram yati vihaya sagataha shushamanya brahma pathena sochasha viduta kalkotha harerudastad prayati chakram nripasaishmaram. O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Shushumna, To reach the highest planet, Brahmalok, he first goes to Vaishvanar, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations. And thereafter, he still goes higher to the circle of Shishumar to relate with Lord Hari, the planet of the personality of Godhead. So, Sukadeva Goswami is now describing the path of the Kramamukta. So, the Kramamuktas, they will attain several liberations on the way, and the earlier liberations are basically successive elevation to higher planets. So, the first destination for the Krama Muktas is Vaishvanaram. So Vaishvanaram is the planet of, it says the deity of fire, which is Agnidev. But Vaishvanaram in a general way refers to Svargalok. So he first goes to the heavenly planets. From there he goes to the higher planets, leading to Brahmalok, which is the highest planet in the material world. Sukadeva Goswami talks about the circle of Shishumar. So this is the circle of stars. So Shishumar is dolphin. So this is the circle of stars in the form of the dolphin. It's described in a little bit more details in the 5th canto, 23rd chapter. Then at the tail of the Shishumar is Dhruvalok, or the pole star. And then the body of the Shishumar, it extends around the sky, and the 27 constellations are situated into the various parts of the body. So the pole star or the Dhruvaloka is where Shyodakshay Vishnu resides. So this is the planet of Shyodakshay Vishnu. So we see that there are times when the demigods go to Lord Brahma for help, and then Lord Brahma goes with them to Shir Sagar, and there he recites prayers, and essentially Shodaksai Vishnu, who is the super soul, Paramatma, he resides over there. Okay, verse 25. Tad Vishwanabhim Tvativartya Vishnu Aniyasa Virajenatmananika Namaskritam Brahma Vidamupeti Kalpayushayad Vibhutaram Nate. The Shishumar is the pivot for the turning of the complete universe, and it is called the navel of Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu. The yogi alone goes beyond this circle of Shishumar and attains the planet Maharlok, where purified saints like Bhrigu enjoy a duration of life of 4.3 billion solar years. This planet is worshipable even for saints who are transcendently situated. So, so the path is further being described, the path to Brahmalok. So, and in the path to the Brahmalok, the Kramamukta will enjoy life in Maharlok. And the duration of life in Maharlok is 1 day of Brahma, 1000 Chaturyugas. So there is a brief description that is given of the construction of the universe, and this will be explained later in more details in the 5th canto. So then at this point we are not going to be speak too much. So there are ways to reconcile these statements, that how does the Shishumar become the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, while understanding that Dhruvalok is the place of residence of Kshodakshai, Vishnu. And typically Garbhodaksha Vishnu is shown below the Patal Lok. So there is the universe, Patal Lok is at the bottom, the Brahma Lok is at the top. Below the Patal Lok is the Garbhodaksha, is the Garbhodaka ocean, on which Garbhodaksha Vishnu is lying. And then from his navel comes the lotus in which Lord Brahma is there. But the Shishumara planet is at the top, where which finally attends into Dhruvalok. So all these are explained in more details by considering the fact that based on a reference model, things can become different from conventional understanding. That if you're looking from the top, then what is at the bottom, and if you're looking at the bottom, then what is at the top is different there. So we'll talk about it more later. Right now, I think the focus is the gradual ascension of the Kramamukta through the Svarglok to the Maharlok and ultimately to the Brahmalok. Atho anantasya mukhanalena dandayamanam saniriksha vishvam niryati siddheshwara yushtadishnayam yadvai paradayam taduparmastyam. At the time of the final devastation of the complete universe, the end of the duration of Brahma's life, a flame of fire emanates from the mouth of Ananta, from the bottom of the universe. The yogi sees all the planets of the universe burning to ashes, and thus he leaves for Satyalok by airplanes, used by the great purified souls. The duration of life in Satyalok is calculated to be 15.48 trillion years. So Srila Prabhupada in the commentary, he talks about the fact that there is mention of the flying machines in the Bhagavatam 5,000 years before they were actually invented or reinvented. So he goes on to say that in the intermediate time, if somebody had read the Bhagavatam, then he would have rejected it, saying, how can there be machines that fly in the air? But now we know, because we ourselves have flown into it, and we know there are rockets that go into outer space. So we know it's not a matter of big surprise. But Prabhupada uses this to give an example that the Bhagavatam talks about a much more exalted state of being that was there in the past, which has gone away now or has reduced. So we should not reject the statements of the Bhagavatam based on the current understanding. That is immature. So the Krama Mukta, who is now living in the Maharlok, will at the end of the day of Brahma, will face the partial destruction of the universe. So when Lord Brahma sleeps, then the lower planets, all the way till Maharlok, they get destroyed. So at this time, the person will travel to Brahmalok in an airplane. And the duration of life in the Brahmalok is Dvai Pararadhyam. So true Pararadhas. So two Pararadhas is basically 100 years. So Pararadhya is 50, Dvai Pararadhya is 100. So the duration there is 100 years of the life of Lord Brahma. So there, for obvious reason, because Lord Brahma lives over there, the residents over there, they have a life equal to the lifespan of Lord Brahma. Verse 27, Na yatra shoko na jara na mrityu narti na chodve garate kutaschit yachit tato taha kripayanidam vidam duranta dukha prabhavanudarshana. In the planet of Satyalok, there is neither bereavement nor old age nor death. There is no pain of any kind, and therefore there are no anxieties, save that sometimes, due to consciousness, there is a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service who are subjected to unsurpassable, unsurpassable mysteries in the material world. So this is a glorification of Satyug. So the four kleshas, the fear of death, birth, disease, and old age are absent. So there is birth and death over there because it is still in the material world. But the point that is made is that there is no shoka, there is no bereavement associated with it. So when Lord Brahma, he realizes that he's going to die, he does not go into misery. He does not become afraid, or he does not uh, start lamenting, but he is at that level of consciousness that he simply accepts it. And because there is no envy over there, so there is no, sometimes, so Radha Govind Maharaj says that in the heavenly planets, when somebody enters into the heavenly planet, there is a lot of envy towards the person. They say that, one more person has come to compete with us. One more person has come to take away what is ours. But in the Brahmalok, there is no such envy because they have a much higher level of consciousness. The only thing that is there is adaha, which is compassion, and kripiya, which is sympathy for the suffering in the rest of the material world. Which is why sometimes uh, souls from this planet, they come down to the lower planets in order to help them, in order to preach. That's why we see the four Kumars. They travel all over the universe, and at different points of time, they preach. So the four Kumars are residents of, they're actually not residents of Brahmalok, they're actually residents of Janalok, but but neighborhood planets. But you see how they have the same sense of, strong sense of compassion. Okay, next verse, and then we'll stop for any discussion. Tato vishesham pratipatya nirbhayas tenatmanapo analmurti atvaran jyotirmayo vayum upetya kale vayevatmana kamradatmalingam. After reaching Satyalok, the devotee is specifically able to be incorporated fearlessly by the subtle body in an identity similar to that of the gross body. And one after another, he gradually attains stages of existence from earthly to watery, fiery, glowing, and air until he reaches the ethereal stage. So, 2 points that are made here. One point that Prabhupada makes in the purport, that the residents of Brahmalok have three possible destinations. So now this is Brahmalok. Firstly, you have to imagine that very few people can reach Brahmalok, the highest planet in the material universe. But there also, they have three possible destinations. So those who have attained Brahmalok by virtue of pious activities, they will attain a place that is commensurate to their residual pious activities. So because of the force of karma, they have acquired sufficient piety to go to Brahmalok, and they, depending upon how the cycle of karma has continued, they can attain a relevant destination. So if the karma has become kshin, if it has become depleted, they will fall down to a lower planetary system. They may continue to reside in the Brahmalok, in the next destination, or they may actually exit to the spiritual world. Those who have attained the the Brahmalok by the worship of Hiranyagarbha, they will follow the path of Brahma. So Hiranyagarbha actually here refers to Brahma. Here, Hiranyagarbha also refers to the subtle body of the universal form. So the universal form is material, and the subtle body is referred to as Hiranyagarbha. But here Hiranyagarbha is being Lord Brahma is being referred to. So there is a class of devotees who worship Lord Brahma. So because of the worship of Lord Brahma, they acquired the planet of Lord Brahma. And because of the continued worship of Lord Brahma, they will attain the destination of Lord Brahma also. So if Lord Brahma goes back to the spiritual world, they'll go back to the spiritual world because of the mercy of Lord Brahma. If Lord Brahma does not, then they will not. But the understanding is here is that at other place Prabhupada says that almost always Lord Brahma goes back to the spiritual world. But they essentially anchor themselves at the lotus feet of Lord Brahma. And then the third category is the one that we are speaking about, which is the Krama Muktas. So these are those who have developed attraction for Krishna, and because of the strength of their bhakti, they choose to spend time in Brahmalok, and then after that they will return to their spiritual abode. The other part of the verse talks about the transformation from gross to subtle. So in the Brahmalok, in any way, there is no gross elements. So there is no earth, water, fire, or air in the Brahmalok. So those forms have already been dissolved, and Lord Brahma has basically a ethereal body. So ether is basically space or absence of matter. So sometimes they picturize Lord Brahma as something, right? That he has four heads and he has hands, etc. So it's one of those things that, like we discussed once, that we are trying to describe something in conventional terms. Like we describe Krishna, that Krishna is like this, but Krishna is of course spiritual. So how can you describe shades of colors to a blind person? You can't. But you can use some way to describe it. You can take his hand and run it on a paper and say if it is rough, think of it as black. If it is a little smooth, think this is green. So there is some rough notional correspondence over there. Okay. So I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Here Like the Kramamuktas, they are attached to Krishna, but with they are out of control of material modes, but they still enjoy the material benefits unrestrictively. So it looks to me uh, fascinating to be very honest. Like they are not controlled by modes, but still whenever they want, they enjoy. But they have that conception of spirituality and they go back to Godhead also. So how uh, it is different for the Shuddha Bhaktas and what is the danger involved with the Krama Muktas? So so that I can more focus on the right way.
So they don't enjoy unrestrictedly. They in one of the purports Srila Prabhupada mentions that they enjoy religiously as per the scriptures, right? So it's not that they become like, they become
Yes,
demoniac or anything like that.
unrestrictively meaning without restriction by modes. That's what I mean.
Okay. So uh, so the danger, of course, is that they're kind of playing with fire. That the modes are there, and the material enjoyment is strong, and because they have the ability to enjoy, so they can, so they have a tremendous potential to enjoy there. But more or less, the understanding is that the Krama Muktas, they also attain liberation. So after having reached that stage, when one is no longer influenced by the modes, then it's more a matter of personal choice. That, like I said in Brad Bhagavatamrita, we see Gopakumar. He just wants to experience. He wants to experience what does it mean to be Indra. What does it mean to be Shiva? What does it mean to be a resident of Vaikuntha? He just wants to experience it. Now, everywhere he experiences it according to the established rules and regulations, but it's the soul that is exercising their free will in that particular way. So I did not get the sense that they are inferior in any way, or they are they're more susceptible to fall down. I did not get the sense from reading the purports of Prabhupada. The only thing that I got a sense is that for whatever reason, they desire that path. And they obviously spend a long time. So if they go to Brahmalok, they will live for a long time over there. But uh, um, they're continuously connected with Krishna. They never suspend the relationship with Krishna. They're always devotees first, and anything else second. That's why Srila Prabhupada keeps calling them Bhakti Yogas, Bhakti Yogas.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. And just a comment. One time Prabhupada said, no, that some of his disciples was sent from Brahmalok to help for preaching. Just like you said, they come down for preaching.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, Prabhupada was very appreciative of devotees who took the burden of preaching. He said that they're residents of higher planets, residents of come down from the spiritual world.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so we can continue with verse 29. Granena gandham rasanena vairasam Rupam च दृश्या स्वाशनं त्वचैव श्रोत्रेण च पेत्या नभो गुणत्वं pranena chakutim upeti yogi. The devotee thus surpasses the subtle objects of different senses, like aroma by smelling, the palate by tasting, vision by seeing forms, touching by contacting, the vibration of the ear by ethereal identification, and the sense organs by material activities. So this verse is basically describing the process of the reverse process of assimilation. So when we discuss the process of the creation of the material world, then we'll see the process in the opposite way, how from the subtle the gross comes. Here the process is describing how the gross is amalgamating into the subtle. So in the process of creation, for instance, we saw that earth and fragrance and smelling and nose, they're all interconnected. That earth is the gross element, fragrance is the subtle quality associated with it, smelling is the sense that makes the fragrance available, and nose is the sense organ that finally is associated with smelling. So the yogi is now reversing the the process, and essentially, so even though it describes in a very, very general way, but essentially the process that is being described over here is going from Mahatattva to Pradhan. So when the process of creation is done, it begins with Pradhan and then it segregates into the Mahatattva. And now it is the opposite stage. The Prabhupada talks in the purport. So the yogi or devotee, along with the liquidation of the gross elements, relinquishes the subtle causes like aroma by smelling. The pure spiritual spark, the living entity, thus becomes completely cleansed of all material contamination to become eligible for entrance into the kingdom of God. So, so this is talking about the yogi who has already reached Brahmalok. So the gross elements are not spoken at this point. So we see that earth, water, fire, air, ether, that is not mentioned over here, because on their way to enter into Brahmalok, these qualities have already been given up. So the gross qualities have been given up. Now the devotee is giving up the subtle qualities. So in the first stage, they give up the subtle quality by amalgamating it into an undistinguished mass, which is essentially the pradhan. Next verse 30. Verse 30 has a very long purport. Srila Prabhupada uses it for preaching. He makes many, many points. So Prabhupada will do that. He'll at periodical intervals, he does a quick recap of the whole process of Krishna consciousness or a particular aspect of Krishna consciousness. So the verse is the kind of a trigger to it. Then Prabhupada has a very long purport, and we'll study the salient points of the purport. Sabhut sukshmendriya sanikkarsham manomayam devamyam vikarayam samsadya gatya sahatena yati vijnana tattvam gunasanirodham. The devotee, thus surpassing the gross and subtle forms of covering, enters the plane of egoism. At this stage, he merges the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, in this point of neutralization, and thus reaches egoism and goodness. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahatattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization. So having surpassed the gross and subtle elements, Sukadeva Goswami describes how the yogi attains the layer of ahankar, the layer of false ego, and then he attains the layer of the Mahatattva. So, in the commentary to this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he kind of describes it in a point by point way, how this process of merging is happening. Not specifically just in this verse, but he kind of describes, Sukadeva Goswami is giving a very, very high level summary. So he's just wanting to indicate the path that is being taken. So he's just giving milestones, not really the specifics. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that first of all, the sense objects as well as the elements of the senses are merged into the false ego in tamas or ignorance. So the sense objects are those that are perceived by the senses. So this is things like earth, water, fire, air, ether, or the elements of the senses like light or fragrance. So all these which are anchored in jad or in dead matter, they are merged into the false ego in tamas. Then the senses are merged into the false ego in rajas. So the senses are that which are attached to the jiva, but at a lower level. Essentially, all the senses are doing is interacting with the objects. So the senses are merged into the false ego in the mode of rajas. Then the mind and the controlling deities of the senses. He says the manomayam devamyam. They are merged into the false ego in sattva, in the mode of goodness. Then along with the false ego, which remains, he goes into the layer of Mahatattva. So Mahatattva in this is known as Vigyan Tattva. He then merges the Mahatattva into the Pradhan, which essentially means that the Mahatattva loses its compositional identity. It becomes a undifferentiated mass, which means that the gunas are, so he says guna sanirodham. So guna sanirodham means that the gunas stop, because there is no mode of goodness, no mode of passion, no mode of ignorance. They are all amalgamated into the pradhan. So this is briefly the process that is followed by the yogi in the final destination. So initially it was they go to the heavenly planets, they go to Mahatlok, they go to Brahmalok. Now from the Brahmalok, they are now going through this process of material decomposition to enter into the spiritual world. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives an explanation by which the yogi gets liberated, and then he speaks very strongly about the impracticality of the process. And he also speaks even more strongly about the importance of following the path of bhakti. So Prabhupada, and we see that in chapter 6 also, Krishna is speaking about Astang Yoga, he's glorifying Astang Yoga. Prabhupada in the purport is condemning Astang Yoga. So the verse says one thing and Prabhupada is saying another thing. And the understanding is that Prabhupada is speaking about it in the context of us, the present Kaldeshan and circumstance. So let's quickly look at the points that Prabhupada made, because he obviously made them for us to read and understand. So one of the first point that Prabhupada made, that by surpassing the material modes, one attains the stage of Vasudeva Sattva, or that of pure goodness, by which one can become qualified to enter into the kingdom of God. The process of yoga to attain this Vasudev Sattva is very difficult, especially in the current age of Kali. It is always difficult, but in the current age of Kali, it is more so difficult, and various reasons: short lifespan, not ability to control mind, etc., etc. So it is impractical. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the process of bhakti. And then Prabhupada goes on to speak briefly about the process of bhakti, that the once bhakti starts on a fortunate meeting with a qualified spiritual master. And under the guidance of the Guru, this fortunate jiva follows the path given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that of Shravana Kirtan, that of hearing and chanting Nam Roop Gun Leela Dham, right? The name, the forms, the qualities, the pastimes, the dham, the places. And through this process of Shravan Kirtan, the devotee is progressing to the stage of emancipation. Emancipation means that of liberation. The the process of progress in hearing and especially chanting is roughly divided into 3 stages: offensive, clearing, and offenseless. Namaprad, Namabhas, and Shuddhana. Namaprad is when one is chanting with the 10 kinds of offenses. Namabhas is that these offenses are mostly gone. So one has become cleared of the sins, but the chanting is still not fully pure. And Prabhupada says that even at the stage of Namabhas, one is liberated. So Namabhas itself is sufficient to liberate one from the material world. And then he further says that by serving the spiritual master with full attention while chanting Namabhas, one gradually rises to the platform of Shuddhana. And then at this stage, Krishna fully reveals himself. So a devotee who chants Shuddhanam observes Krishna appearing personally on his tongue. As an effect of this chanting, he is bestowed Krishna Prema. So at this stage, the chanting of the names is the same as associating with Krishna as the devotees were associating with him in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. And the point Prabhupada makes is not only associating with Krishna, but associating with those who associate with Krishna. So one gets the association of the pure devotees of Krishna also. And we see that to some extent in the pastime of Rupa Goswami, when he's chanting the names and he enters into Krishna Leela. And there he's associating with the devotees of Krishna and he's observing Krishna's pastimes. So Prabhupada goes on to say that this is a process of bhakti as opposed to yoga, which will purify and elevate the devotee from the material into the spiritual world on the strength of chanting the holy name in the association of devotees under the guidance of a guru. And then Prabhupada makes the point that a devotee may have reached the stage of perfection even though he may be physically present in the material world. And this is again the example that is given is that of devotees like the 6 Goswamis. Like Rupa Goswami has a body by which he's in Vrindavan, and then he has at the same time he has another body by which he is witnessing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And the devotees retain the material body, not because they're forced to, but mostly for service, mostly for giving their association and serving Krishna. And Prabhupada concludes this line of thought saying that in this simple and easy path, the biggest obstacle is that of offenses against the devotees. So the devotee must be careful to protect oneself by guarding against offenses against the devotees and the holy name. So Prabhupada then speaks a little bit more about offenses, and he says that offenses by one at the feet of a pure devotee may be likened to the mad elephant who devastates the very good garden it enters. So that is why one must be careful to guard against such offenses at the feet of pure devotees, just as one protects the creeper by all around fencing. So these are one kind of thing that the devotee protects against. So you're growing a creeper, and how do you grow the creeper? You grow it by watering it on a regular basis. So we have that experience in our house. That last summer we planted a lot of plants in our front garden, with the understanding that we'll get nice plants. And half the plants the deer ate, and the other half the plants the weeds ate them. So Prabhupada talks about these two things that one must protect against. The first is the mad elephant, which is Vaishnava Prad, to some extent Namaprad also. Then he talks about the weeds, that as you water the creeper of devotion, you might also inadvertently water the weeds. And unless one is vigilant to uproot the weeds, they tend to actually grow faster than the creeper, and they take away the growth of the creeper by choking them of the nutrients. So what are these weeds? So these weeds, Prabhupada describes, they are things like the desire to enjoy in the material world, the desire to merge into the absolute. This is the Mayavadi concept. The desire to for economic development, sense enjoyment, the desire for mukti. So these are all the weeds that can choke the creeper of devotion. There are many other weeds, like disobedience to the tenets of the revered scriptures, unnecessary engagements, killing animals, hankering after material gain, prestige, and adoration. So the last three, puja, labh, and pratishtha, material gain, prestige, and adoration, these come automatically to those who make spiritual advancements. But when it starts hankering after them, then they become obstacle in one's devotion. So if sufficient care is not taken, then the watering process may not only help to breed the weeds, stunting the healthy growth of the main creeper and resulting in no fructification of the ultimate requirement, love of Godhead. The devotee must therefore be very careful to uproot the different weeds in the very beginning. Only then will the growth of the main creeper not be stunted. And by so doing, the devotee is also able to relish the fruit of love of God and thus live practically with Lord Krishna even in this life and be able to see the Lord in every step. The highest perfection of life is to enjoy life constantly in the association of the Lord, and one who can relish this does not aspire for any temporary enjoyment of the material world via other media. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he first talks about the superiority of bhakti, and then he talks about the need to cultivate bhakti properly. That how does the creeper grow? The creeper grows by taking shelter of a guru, by following the process of Shravan Kirtan, by going from Namaprad to Namapas to Shuddhanam. So that's how the creeper is growing. And while the creeper is growing, one protects it from the animals that can mad elephant, which is Vaishnava Prad, by building a strong fence. And while we are watering the creeper, then we also make sure that the weeds don't grow. So essentially the weeds are anarthas. So the anarthas might also grow along with bhakti. So one by carefully understanding them to be obstacles, one stays away from them. Okay, we go to the next verse. Tenatmanatmanam upeti shantam anandamanandamyo avashane etam gatim bhagavatim gato yaha savai punarneha vishajatayanga. Only the purified soul can attain the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss and satisfaction in this constitutional stage. Whoever is able to renovate such devotional perfection is never again attached by this material world, and he never returns. So the verse starts with Tena. So Tena is this, and it refers to the process of Krama Mukti that has been described so far. So this is the reason I was saying that Sukadev Goswami, he does not hold the Krama Muktas at a lower platform. He's saying even by this process, Tena, one can attain the perfection of associating with the personality of Godhead in complete bliss. So this is the end result. That Atmana, the Jiva, he attains Upaiti. What does he attain? Swarup. So he attains his spiritual form, and in association with Atmanam. So Atmanam is the super soul, is essentially Mahavishnu, who is described as Anandamayo, or full of bliss. And thus the yogi attains bliss. So Sukdev Goswami, he's expressed this very poetically. He says, Atmana Atmanam Anandam Anandamayo. So Atmana Atmanam, that the soul along with the super soul, Anandam Anandamayo, experiences bliss with the source of the bliss. And having attained this destination, then he has no other attraction to the material world. Savai Punar Neha Vishajate. Same point made in Bhagavad Gita 8:15. So even though Tena, or this process is that of the advancement made by the yogi, Sukadev Goswami uses the phrase Gatim Bhagavatim, or the path of bhakti. And the reason is the same. So Prabhupada says in the purport, we should further note in this verse the two words Shantam and Anandam, which denote that devotional service of the Lord can really bestow upon the devotee two important benedictions, namely peace and satisfaction. So the understanding is that at this stage, there is no difference between the yogi and the and the devotee. Why? Because the yogi at this stage is Gatim Bhagavatim. That regardless of whatever way that he used to extricate himself from matter, his destination is now the lotus feet of Krishna. So we always use this analogy that there may be many roads, but they converge into a single path that enters into the spiritual world. So whether one is coming by this path or karma or jnana or dhyana or whatever it is, the final single lane that goes into Krishna's house is that of bhakti. So that the yogi now has entered into the final path. So there is no distinction between him uh, and anybody else. They are all at this path, anchored in the stage of bhakti. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he contrasts this with the impersonalist. So the impersonalist is Gatim Brahmajyoti, whereas a devotee is Gatim Bhagavatim. Prabhupada says in the purport that the impersonalists who desire to merge into the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence of the Supreme Lord, but have no conception of loving devotional service to Him, in His personal form, in the spiritual manifestation, may be compared to certain species of fish, who being born in the rivers and rivulets, migrate to the great ocean. They cannot stay in the ocean indefinitely, for the urge for sense gratification brings them back to the rivers and streams to spawn. Similarly, when the materialist becomes frustrated in his attempts to enjoy himself in the limited material world, he may seek impersonal liberation by merging either with the causal ocean or with the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence. However, as neither the causal ocean nor the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence affords any spiritual substitute for association and engagement of the senses, the impersonalist will fall again into the limited world to become entangled once more in the wheel of births and deaths, drawn on by the inextinguishable desire for sensual engagement. But any devotee who enters into the kingdom of God by transcendental engagement of his senses in devotional service, and who associates with the liberated souls and the personality of Godhead there, will never be attracted to the limited surroundings of the material mode. And then he concludes by saying, to be more clear, if one wants to attain the stage of love of Godhead, he must give up all desires for material enjoyment. He must refrain from worshipping any of the demigods. He should devote himself only to the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He must give up the foolish idea of becoming one with the Lord and the desire to have some wonderful powers, such as uh, just to give up the ephemeral adoration of the word. The pure devotee is only favorably engaged in the service of the Lord without any hopes of emolument. This will bring about love of Godhead or the state of Shantam and Anandam as stated in the verse. So one of the points one may think is that Sukadeva Goswami previously has been talking about the process of yoga, which gives one entry into the Brahmajyoti or the causal ocean. And now he's speaking about the destination of the devotees and linking it to the process of yoga. And then he's linking the two by using the word tena. So one can reconcile this by understanding that the perfection of yoga is bhakti. So tena can be understood to refer to the ongoing process, which is Astanga Yoga, that is now maturing into bhakti. So this is substantiated by the fact that Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, he has explicitly stated that the destination of the yogic process is Brahmajyoti or causal ocean, which is not permanent. And since Sukadeva Goswami states that the destination of this process is indeed permanent, so we can understand that this is not pointing to the yoga process as in the Astanga Yoga, but it is pointing to the maturity of the yoga process in the form of bhakti. So right now this point is implicitly stated in verse 33. It will be stated more explicitly. Okay, so I'll do one more verse and then we'll stop for any comments or discussions. Verse 32. Et shruti te nrpa ved gite tvaya viprashte cha sanatane cha yivaye pura brahman ahatushta aradhito bhagavan vasudeva. Your Majesty, Maharaj Parikshit, know that all that I have described in reply to your proper inquiry is just according to the versions of the Vedas, and it is eternal truth. This was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma, with whom the Lord was satisfied upon being properly worshipped. So, in the 6 verses from 32 to 37, Sukadeva Goswami will describe that the knowledge that he has spoken is in accordance to the Vedas. So he achieves 2 purposes over here. So this is the first time that Sukadeva Goswami is speaking, is giving knowledge, transcendental knowledge to Parikshit Maharaj. So he's making the point here to establish the context for what he will speak later on. That everything and anything that he speaks is according to the Vedas. So he is not speculating, he is not drawing his own conclusions, but what he is saying is recorded as a conversation between Krishna and Brahma. So so after hearing the difficult and intricate path to the spiritual world through the practice of yoga, Sukadeva Goswami has described a different but more auspicious means of deliverance, which is bhakti, Krishna bhakti. So this path was established by Lord Brahma as the actual Vedic goal. This path of developing attraction for Lord Krishna. So the recommendation here is that this was spoken by Krishna to Brahma, Krishna being the highest authority, Brahma being the highest authority in the material world. So this is a conversation between 2 very exalted personalities, and the essence of the conversation is to follow the path of bhakti. So Vishwanath Chakravarti mentions that the Lord is in everyone's heart, and we are already fully dependent upon him. One can perceive this through his intelligence. It is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, always and everywhere. Hearers of the nectarian Krishna Katha purify themselves of material desires and directly go back to Godhead. Sukadeva Goswami has now directly answered Parikshit Maharaj's question about his duty at the time of death. So this is not actually Vishwanath Chakravarti, this is Bhurichand Prabhu saying, and I think it is Jiva Goswami, but this is from Bhurichand Prabhu's unveiling the lotus feet. So further on it is said that to make progress on the path of self-realization, one must have determination and one must pray for the mercy of the Lord in the heart, who is the director of our intelligence. Then the purport of the Vedas is revealed and we can realize the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Bhakti Yoga is the most auspicious means of deliverance. Our other paths are stepping stones to Bhakti. Therefore, one should always hear and chant the holy names read the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who drink Kathamritam of Srimad Bhagavatam purify the material desires and attain devotional service at the lotus feet of Lord in Golok Vrindavan. So again, this is kind of a summarization that my Guruji Prabhu, same point that is made, that the difficult path of yoga has been mentioned, the easy part of bhakti has been compared. Our intelligence is sufficient for us to, if we use our intelligence sufficiently, then we can understand that the path of bhakti, which involves hearing and glorifying Krishna, is the simple, easy, and the relishable path. Therefore, one should follow this path with determination while serving the devotees. So Parishad Maharaj had previously asked that what a person who is dying should do. And this concludes the answer to that question. Sukdev Goswami states that his answer is Veda Gita. So what is this? This is that one should hear and chant about Krishna. That is what a person who is dying should do. And because he has answered a foundational question of Parishad Maharaj, Sukdev Goswami is saying that his answer is Veda Gita. Veda Gita means that it is not his own speculation, but as per the Vedas. And he also mentions that it is as per the Parampara. Krishna spoke to Brahma, Brahma spoke to Narad, Narad spoke to Vyas, and Vyasadeva spoke to Sukadeva Goswami. So two paths have been described. The first path is that of direct liberation, which was described 15 to 21. The Nirvidya Mudrat Vishret Param Katha, and then the path of Kramamukta, which was 22 to 31. So these paths are also described, and the Jiva Goswami makes a note that they're also described in Brihad Aranakya Upanishad and Katha Upanishad. And so these two, they describe the path these two describe the path of direct liberation. And the path of gradual liberation is also described in Brihad Aranakya Upanishad 6 to 15. Okay, so I'm going to stop over here and see if there's any comments.
Hare Krishna. Oh.
Yes,
Go ahead, please.
Please go ahead.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Regarding the merging of the senses with the different modes of nature and mind with the sattva gun, but is there a mentioning about intelligence merging? Because we know how the pradhan then separates into false ego and all these elements by merging with the different modes. Similarly, the backward happens. So I don't know that I heard you mentioning intelligence also.
Intelligence is not mentioned here, and the process that is mentioned over here is it's not an exact detailed process. So Sukadeva Goswami is kind of indicating that the merging process, the dematerializing process is happening, but it does not go into each and every details. When we read the process of creation, then we'll see a lot of more details that happen. And as you mentioned there, from ego comes intelligence, from intelligence comes the mind, from mind comes the senses, and prior to the ego comes from the false ego, the modes of material nature appear. So he does not go into that level of details. Does not mean that it is wrong, or does not mean that it does not happen, but he is using it as a placeholder over here to indicate that at this point the yogi is reversing the process of material creation by notionally doing this till the point that they have reached the state of they've reached the stage of freeing themselves from the false ego.
I have just one more question, Prabhu. So after when a yogi amalgamates into the pradhan, when does the Viraja river come? So we enter into the Viraja river before going into the spiritual world, right? So where does it come in this picture? Any idea? Or,
So again, Sukadeva Goswami doesn't talk about it, but the general understanding is that this whole process of dematerializing is linked with the travel through the Viraj river. That as they travel through the Viraj river, the Viraj river divides the material and the spiritual world. So as they travel into the Viraj river, then this whole process that is described of the reverse amalgamation happening, that goes on over there. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but like I said, at this point, it's explained in a very notional way.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. You mentioned like from verse 15 to 21 is direct liberation, which is Ashtanga Yoga process mixed with Bhakti. And 22nd to 31 is Krama Bhakta process, Krama Mukti process. So, but of the two, like although it is Ashtanga Yoga, it is mixed with Bhakti, so that is more preferable among those two, because although we are neither following both, like we are taking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu process of Daivi Varnashram, Bhakti. So of the two, direct liberation, that is more preferable for a spiritual aspirant, Prabhuji?
So I think it's the same question that you asked some time ago, that you're, I guess, rephrasing and asking, that is the Krama Bhakta superior to the person who's going to the direct path? And my answer will still be the same, that Sukadeva Goswami, he does not seem to say that one is superior to the other. All that he says is that depending on the propensity one takes to the path. Right. So my answer is going to be the same. Your question is the same. So my answer is obviously going to be the same. Okay. There are no more questions. We'll end over here. Thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhayaschet kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Gaur. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.